Pence.
I said for the outset, I think Rangers will be too strong for Celtic this year. I think since Giovanni's come in, there has been real changes to not the style, but I think definitely the shape. As much as it's a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to call it, there has been real differences in particularly the positions of the wider players and their two midfielders. So I think they look a real threat. They do. I think that was something that was Rangers were a little bit flat towards the end of Stephen's time at the club, and Giovanni's come in straight away, and I think there's a real energy being brought back to the team. Whether that's a new manager bounce, which a lot you hear a lot of people talk about when new managers come in, but they're looking really, really good, really strong. The biggest thing for them is, will they strengthen in January and will they lose players? That'll be the biggest thing based on some of the performances of their players and the reputations that they're starting to build for themselves. So it'll be interesting to see January if there's anybody coming calling for some of their top players.
So when you say you've always thought that, do you mean even when Steven Gerrard was in charge that Rangers would do it again, even before the change of manager?
I did, because I still think, there were 4 points clear up until last week. Obviously Celtic's draw, there were still 4 points clear, which is what the point difference was when Stephen left. And I did think they weren't at their best, but they were still winning games of football. They were getting the job done, and that's what champions need to do. They go away when they're not playing at their best. They still get the job done. They still find a way to get the 3 points, and they were doing that under Stephen. So I always felt that they would click at some point as well. It just so happens they have clicked now, and it's been since the new managers came in, and there's been a few changes to the roles that players are getting asked to do. Like I said, I think the style and everything's pretty similar. Again, for me, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. You can float in between that, in between games, but they look a real threat. Ryan Kent in the wider areas. If you get him isolated in 1v1 situations, he's deadly. He can go inside, he can go outside. His step over is electric. So I think having him in that position is a real threat. Probably for me, it probably suits him better. And Aribo's been a revelation this year. He's the way he can create, he can score, he can fill in a number of positions as well, which he has done over his career at Rangers so far. So I think I've always said I just thought their squad was going to be too strong. When you look at it across the city at Celtic, there's been a lot of chat about strengthening. It's because they need to. They need to strengthen. And every team needs to strengthen. I suppose there's an argument for that as well. But Celtic do need to strengthen, and that's why they'll go and sign 3 or 4 players in the summer and that in January. And that has always been the way since Ange's came in. They've been looking at this transfer window to bring a few in to give their squad a bit more strength and depth, because I think it really lacks that. Whereas you look at Rangers' squad, it's pretty strong. If they do add 1 or 2 in January, it becomes even stronger. So I think over the course of it, it'll just be, I think Rangers will be too strong.
Obviously, from what you said, you thought Rangers were going to improve under Steven Gerrard anyway. I guess a lot of people would look at it and say they needed those tweaks. They needed the change of manager. They needed a freshening up exercise because they'd gone a bit stale.
No, they had went stale. It's stale. You know what? I'm going to take that back. I don't think they'd went stale. They just weren't playing at the same levels as what they were last year. When you go through a league season unbeaten, and you hit the heights that they did, and lots of Celtic weren't great, but listen, that I don't buy into that. You still need to go into every game and win the games, and you need to have the relentless mindset that you keep going and you keep going, even when you've won the league, to go and keep that unbeaten run going. So their form last year was outstanding, and they won the league, and deservedly so. This year they came back. Was there a wee bit of a hangover from winning the league and achieving that 55 that's been talked about for so long? Was there a little bit of hangover for it? I feel there was. But there's a lot of situations arising with players potentially going, contract situations to key players, i.e. Connor Goldson, who's been ever present pretty much since he came to the club. So there has been another few situations arising which could play into the fact that maybe performances are dropped a little. But in saying that, they were still top of the league. They still got through in the Europa League. Yep, they had a disappointing game in the semi-final against Hibs, which was really disappointing. Performance was poor, not good enough for the football club to lose at another semi-final and go out to another cup competition. So it's but since Giovanni came in, he was in the stand for that game. There has been a real resurgence in their performances, their energy. I think they look a threat for so many different areas now. Whereas when you say stale or flat, I think sometimes if players are not playing at the top of their game, there's so many. You go so deep into it. They're looking at Ryan Kent and Steven Gerrard's relationship, and Steven's brought all these players to the club. How are they thinking now that he's left and all that kind of. Ultimately, the professional players, you need to turn up, you need to do your job, and that's something that they were doing by getting the wins and still being at the top of the league, 4 points clear. But the performance level was just down on where it was last year.
Tell Alexa to launch Go Radio or listen on the Go Radio app.